The first light of dawn spread slowly across the savannah, painting the sky in pale pink and gold. The night's chill still clung to the tall grass, and a thin mist hovered near the ground, shrouding the distant horizon. From the branches of a tall acacia tree, a small group of early hominins began to stir. Their nests were little more than woven beds of leaves and branches, loosely arranged to provide comfort and a measure of safety through the dark hours. For them, the tree was not only a resting place but also a shield against the dangers lurking below: saber-toothed cats, snakes, and the silent glide of night hunters. A female was the first to move. Her dark, heavy-lidded eyes blinked against the light as she shifted cautiously, cradling her young against her chest. The infant clung instinctively, its small fingers gripping her fur, its wide eyes watching the shifting leaves around them. She listened. Every creak of the branches, every distant cry of waking animals mattered. Her senses were tuned to the delicate balance of survival. Below in the tall grass, the faint rustle of something unseen made her pause. For several long moments she froze, her breath shallow, before the sound faded into the distance. Only then did she begin her descent. The others followed her lead. Males, females, and juveniles stirred and stretched, shaking off sleep. One young male, restless with energy, clambered higher into the branches, gazing across the plains where the morning light revealed endless stretches of grass, broken by scattered trees. Herds of antelope grazed in the distance, their movements cautious and synchronized. A flock of birds erupted into flight, startled by something unseen, sending ripples of alarm through the hominins. One by one they left the safety of the branches. Their movements were careful, half on 2 feet, half on all fours. As they tested the ground with each step, the female with the infant was first to touch the soil, her bare feet pressing into the damp earth by the tree's base. She sniffed the air, scanning for signs of danger, her muscles taut and ready to retreat at the slightest threat. Gradually, the others joined her, gathering into a loose group. The day had begun, and with it came both opportunity and risk. The savannah stretched before them, filled with food, water, danger, and mystery. To survive, they would need to balance caution with courage, instinct with curiosity. Each step they took into the open was a small but vital gamble in the long story of becoming human. By the banks of a wide, sluggish river, the group gathered cautiously. The water shimmered beneath the morning sun, reflecting ripples of gold and silver. Crocodiles often lurked here, but the river also promised life. Fish darting in the shallows, roots and reeds to chew, and fallen branches washed downstream by the current. The air was alive with the hum of insects, the calls of water birds, and the constant shifting of unseen creatures in the reeds. 2 males drifted apart from the others, their attention caught by a thick, weathered branch lying in the mud. It had been smoothed by the river, sturdy yet light enough to be lifted. One reached for it first, curling his long fingers around its surface. Almost immediately, the other lunged forward, grabbing at the same piece of wood. Their eyes locked. The cries that followed were sharp, guttural, and raw, sounds of challenge that startled nearby birds into the sky. The struggle was not simply about the branch. To the hominins, strength meant safety, authority, and access to food. The branch in that moment became a symbol. One male yanked hard, pulling the wood close, while the other bared his teeth, stamping his feet in the mud. The group watched intently. Females clutched their young closer. Juveniles clambered onto nearby roots to stay out of harm's way, and even the alpha female tilted her head, assessing the outcome. Then the unexpected happened. Instead of biting or clawing, the stronger male raised the branch high above his head and slammed it into the ground. The crack of wood against earth echoed like thunder. The sound startled the rival, who instinctively recoiled, his courage wavering. For a long moment, the victor stood upright, gripping the branch, chest heaving, his body expanded in a display of power. The defeated male shrank back, lowering his gaze, unwilling to continue. No blood was shed. Instead, the branch had transformed into something more than an object. It had become a tool for intimidation, a weapon of display rather than destruction. The group settled again, tension dissolving into murmurs and soft grunts. The victorious male carried the branch as he walked along the bank, not using it but holding it as though it belonged to him. In that moment, a new kind of order revealed itself. Power was no longer only about physical attack, but about the ability to intimidate, to dominate through showmanship. It was a glimpse of a future where symbols, rituals, and unspoken rules would shape societies just as much as brute strength. The midday sun hung high, baking the savanna in waves of shimmering heat. The group of hominins had moved into a grove of fig and wild plum trees, their branches offering shade and food. The air smelled of ripe fruit and damp earth, and the soft rustle of leaves mixed with the calls of distant birds. While most of the group fed, plucking figs, stripping bark, or chewing roots, one young female became distracted by something on the ground. Near a patch of stones, she crouched low, her curious eyes locked on two rocks that seemed different from the rest. One was heavy and rounded, fitting neatly into her palm. The other was flatter, with a sharp edge where it had fractured. She picked up the heavier one, rolling it between her fingers before striking it against the flat stone. The crack rang out sharply, startling a flock of guinea fowl into flight. Some of her companions glanced up, alarmed, but soon returned to feeding. She, however, was not finished. She struck again, harder this time. Chips of stone broke free, scattering around her. She paused, examined the fragments, and picked one up. Its edge gleamed sharper than bone or wood. She brought it to her mouth, tapping her teeth gently against it, then dragged it across the surface of a fibrous root lying nearby. The root tore open more easily than expected, exposing its starchy center. She squeaked in surprise, a high, almost playful sound. The others began to watch. A juvenile crept closer, tilting his head, while two older females paused mid-bite, their eyes narrowing in curiosity. The young female struck again, producing another sharp shard, then demonstrated its use by slicing through the outer skin of a fig. She sniffed it, licked the juice that bled out, and chattered softly to herself. What had begun as idle curiosity was turning into a discovery, though she could not understand it. The edge she had created carried potential far beyond the moment. A fragment of stone sharper than claws, stronger than teeth, could change how her kind interacted with their world. For now it was just play, a strange game with sound and stone. But the seeds of innovation had been planted. Around her, the others remained cautious, torn between wariness and fascination. Some reached out to touch the shards, others backed away uneasily, as though sensing both danger and promise. In the quiet shade of the fig grove, something extraordinary had taken shape, the first spark of invention, born not from need but from curiosity. Darkness crept across the savanna as the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the grasslands bathed in twilight. The air cooled quickly, and with it came the stirrings of night predators, hyenas laughing in the distance, the low rumble of a lion marking its territory, the faint rustle of snakes moving through the brush. For the small band of early hominins, safety meant elevation, and they began their nightly ascent into the waiting arms of tall trees. Their chosen acacia, thick with branches, had become a sanctuary. One by one they climbed upward, some with infants clinging tightly, others pausing midway to scan the darkening plains. The females settled first, carefully arranging leaves and branches into loose bedding. Juveniles nestled close to their mothers, eyes wide and alert, while older males positioned themselves on sturdier limbs, vigilant against threats. The tree creaked under their collective weight, but the group was accustomed to this nightly ritual, an instinct honed over generations of survival. Yet on this night something subtle began to shift. The usual silence of their roost was broken not by alarm cries but by soft, deliberate sounds. A mother, soothing her restless child, produced a low, rhythmic hum in her throat. The sound was calming, not frantic, carrying reassurance rather than fear. Another hominin responded with a short grunt, not hostile but acknowledging, as though echoing comfort. Soon others joined in. A series of soft murmurs and answering calls floated through the branches. The tones varied, some deep, some high-pitched, but together they formed a strange pattern, a kind of primitive rhythm threading its way through the group. Infants quieted at the familiar sounds, while adults seemed to relax, their tense shoulders easing as the dark closed in. Below, the savanna came alive with the chaos of predators hunting in the night. A lion roared, shaking the air, and hyenas cackled as they fought over scraps. The hominins, however, remained in their treetop refuge, their strange exchange of sounds weaving a cocoon of reassurance. The murmurs became more intentional, repeated with slight variations. as though meaning was beginning to emerge, not just noise, but the first fragile threads of communication. In the darkness, something profound stirred. These were not yet words, but they were more than cries. They were the foundation of what would one day become language, the invisible bond that would transform scattered bands of survivalists into communities, storytellers and dreamers. On that night, high above the predator-filled plains, humanity's earliest whispers began.